Fear not, citizens. Hope has arrived as the Amateur Otaku is back to talk My Hero Academia anime. We are talking My Hero Academia Season 6, the final episode of Cour 1, and we're doing a full Season 6 review. I am very excited here, and of course, I am joined by the one and only President Mike. What's up, dude?
This first half of the season has been brutal, and I love it.
Yes, brutal in all the best ways. And it's funny because, especially with the way that the first Cour ended, it literally feels like what we were talking about in the beginning of our coverage. This feels like the Infinity War of the My Hero universe. Yeah. That's what it feels like, and especially for those that know the manga. And this is not a spoiler because it's obvious based on how the anime is going. After an Infinity War, you definitely have to have an endgame. But this is a great Infinity War like arc moment, and especially the way it closes on the heroes losing, more or less. And it's a great way of ending it and preparing us for the next step of episodes. And we're very excited to talk about this here at the Amateur Otaku. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the episode real quick. We're going to do a full Cour 1 finale review. But after that, for those that have kept up with the manga with us, which we're covering also here on the channel, and we covered that arc back when it was going on, right, Mike?
Yeah.
On the channel as well.
It was me, Isaac, and Leo for the most part, just losing our minds. It's really fun to look back now.
Yeah, so if you guys want to listen to our reviews of that back then, you can definitely go back to the archive. We have a playlist of every single My Hero Academia manga that we've covered, including some spin-offs like Vigilantes and some team of missions that we've done. But also, at the end of the episode, we are going to do a Manga Spoilers section where we're going to talk about theories and ideas of where Cour 2 is going to go, what it's going to cover, and when specifically it's going to end, because I think where it ends, it really influences how Season 7 is going to feel. So we're really excited to talk about that. And if you love what we do here at the Amateur Otaku Pod, make sure you click on that like button, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you click on the bell for notifications so that you do not miss any single coverage, any single theory, and anything we do here. We do shorts, we do videos every single week, and we're excited to talk My Hero because it's actually one of the shows that inspired us to do this pod. So we are very excited to keep covering that. So I don't know, Mike, you want to jump right in?
Let's jump right in. It's the final performance.
So this is actually the name is very indicative to the main character that this circles with it, but also it kind of draws into the idea that it is the final bow of society as it was known to that point, right? Because there's a huge shift in so many things. I love when great authors use that double meaning or triple meaning of titles to talk about a lot of things at once. So I find that super, super awesome. But let's start with
the name of the manga chapter too that this is adapting for the most part is 294, the final performance.
Awesome. Does it take a little bit of anything else, or do they do something else with it?
So in the manga chapter that this episode is based on, it's very straightforward. Compress is trapped. He sees his comrades in danger, and then he does the thing. Right? It's very direct and straightforward. What I love that the anime does, though, is that it embellishes a little bit. It makes it grander. It makes it feel more impactful because they added scenes like Dabi fighting Shoto or Lemillion trying to pursue Shigaraki. Right? Those are things that didn't happen in the manga at all. Whatsoever. So it felt more chaotic and grand scale. So I feel like that they went all in because they know that this technically is the end of the first half, right? We get a new intro, new outro for the next episode. This is the end of the war arc as we know it.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because there's a lot of stuff that occurs that's very interesting. And I don't know if you noticed it. We act in the Did you watch the preview for the next episode of Cour 2?
Yes.
We get a sneak peek of the ending theme.
Yeah, it's great. I'm interested, guys. You may be listening to this after that episode comes out, but I'm excited to see what the intro is too, because they've been hiding that. They usually announce it, and they haven't. And so I'm excited to see the ending and the opening for the next arc, because that's going to be crazy.
Yeah. But so you kind of gave. So I actually love this episode. I really enjoyed it. I do kind of want to highlight a couple of things that I didn't get a chance to talk about because I wasn't on the last recording.
Yeah.
I totally loved everything they did with Dabi. I felt that it felt more grandiose and more court jester-ish of Dabi, right? Because we've never seen him this playful, right? So I love the idea of Dabi's dance and the way it was portrayed. It was perfection. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it definitely has elements of Joaquin Phoenix and Joker.
Yep, it has so much of that, and I do love it so much, and also it kind of highlights how much dyeing your hair can change your life.
Hey, Kirishima taught us that too.
Fair. I do love everything that happened there. Everything with Endeavor, specifically how he's inspired by our young heroes to do the final blow to Gigantomachia. That was phenomenal. I love everything through this point. I love the idea of Best Genius bringing everyone together, and him being a symbol of everybody doing their thing to be able to save people. And also, I do like the fact that there's this idea of hope as part of what fuels heroes. The idea of providing hope to others, but more importantly, the idea that sometimes they need to have something to hope for, and a lot of times they got to find that in each other. And that's I would say the most inspiring thing of the last episode was. I mean, the previous to this one, because you do see all those literally. Exactly, and it's like live, and I love the imagery. I mean, Horikoshi is just great in the way he draws it, and also the way he explains it. He has a way with words, the man. Now, this episode, it was phenomenal. What I like about it more than anything, and I'm finding the anime is really going into the gore in My Hero. Like, they're not cutting back. I mean, not that they've ever done it. Because, I mean, Deku has broken himself like 4 times now.
Yeah.
But I feel that it's being more deliberate, right? Like you literally saw a chunk of compress come off. And it's like there's blood everywhere. Like, I don't know if there's got to be a censored version of My Hero somewhere. But I like the fact that everybody's like battered and bruised, and it's very apparent. I like all that. I like the idea of Compress's backstory kind of harkening back to Robin Hood. And I do like the idea of the last hurrah of Mr. Compress is like, again, everybody looked at the League of Villains like they were a joke. Some of them still do, right? When they go against in the Villain Academia arc against the Liberation Front, or whatever the original name was, which I don't remember. What I like about that sequence is that it kind of like levels up each member of the League of Villains, and I love that, because these people that everybody only feared Shigaraki, oh no, they're all a threat in their own way. And now with what Dabi did recently and what Mr. Compress did, that he was able to literally liberate all of them from Best Jeanist by sacrificing himself. It kind of like highlights the idea that, okay, these guys, no matter how evil they are, they have ideals too, and they're willing to die for them. So all of them are willing to go that extra mile. And the idea of each of them literally gaining that villain status. So I kind of want to see where that goes with Toga. I kind of want to see where that goes with Spinner. And I love how Mr. Compress and Dabi are like the first introduction to that idea.
Yeah, it's very much reminiscent of the previous episode, right? Threads of Hope. This is their Threads of Hope, right? Where Compress is like, we have a dream, we have a vision, I may not be able to see it through, but I'm going to make sure you guys get a chance to make our dreams come true. Now, their dreams are twisted because they are villains. We're going to acknowledge that. But the idea of camaraderie and going beyond is still there, you know? And so I think that's what makes this very interesting. And that's why I love My Villain Academia in the manga. It's still honestly my favorite arc in the entire story because of that.
Nice.
It takes those villains and it humanizes them, getting Shigaraki's backstory, getting Toga's backstory, getting Spinner's backstory. But then we get to see the development of that in the war arc going forward. Yeah, I really love what they did with Mr. Compress in this episode.
Yeah, like the idea. I mean, this is the first time that we actually get his backstory. And,
yeah, he even makes note of that. Nobody ever asked my origin story.
Like, hello, fourth wall. Here it is. I do love the idea. Also, it was so funny because I've been caught up with the manga for so long that I kind of wondered, like, where's Mr. Compress? Like, I completely forgot whatever happened to Mr. Compress. And now I remember. Okay, he just doesn't make it. But I love the idea that all of them in their own way, part of their attack against society or rebellion against society, all of them in a way are making fun of what society is right now because they find it ridiculous.
Yeah.
And because of the hypocrisy, because of the false hope or false justice for certain groups or for certain people, or because within those that are supposed to be protecting, you have people like his ancestor, right, that would steal money from those pro heroes that used to just skim off the top. You know what I mean? So it's horrible. And also, I don't know if you noticed this, but this kind of boggled my mind as I was watching the difference is another thing that gives you a glimpse of how messed up hero society is, or is at the moment of this whole endeavor, is all those shots that we get from the headquarters of the police department.
Oh, like the closing moments of the episode, like recapping the horrors that have happened, right?
But not even that. Like, we see there's multiple clips of that throughout the arc.
Yeah.
So, but the idea that whenever you see the faces of the people working in that headquarters, they're all lifeless. And it kind of gives me that, I don't know why, but it kind of gives me that idea of, yes, they're afraid, but at the same time, it's like they're using all the heroes as expendable units on the outside, as long as they don't get involved. Which also kind of makes me think of what the return on investment is going to be once the actual bombshell of Endeavor breaks, and actually we see the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
And how easy society turns on them, because you got to figure, if everybody has quirks, like 80% of people have quirks, right? And only a certain percentage become heroes, right? For money or for whatever. It makes me think about the whole cogs of war situation, where everyone is just another soldier they can just throw at whatever the problem is, until they figure out, okay, because you've been doing that, you're part of the problem, because you're just, like separating yourself from the actual conflict,
right?
And not having any emotion towards the effect that it's having on heroes, because you got to figure that the kind of admiration and where they're placing all the heroes also is actually part of the problem, because it messes with their head, which kind of messed up with Endeavor's head, even though he made the decisions that put him to where it is as well. So like, it's like everything's feeding its own problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the cycle, right? And this is a theme that My Hero has been hinting at since All Might retired. Hero Society isn't stable. It's not really functional, like, for a long period of time, because All Might basically made up for the mistakes. In a sports analogy, right? He's the quarterback who is making his teammates better. He made Hero Society better by being there.
Yeah.
And once All Might goes into retirement, again, like in sports, when Michael Jordan retires, the Bulls are terrible for 20 years. Why? because the best player in the world, the best hero in the world is gone, and there's no one there who can fill the void like he could. Endeavor, Hawks, Mirako, Genus, they're all great, but they're not All Might, and All for One is still around. And he's the only one who was really a match for him. And that's even this episode, right? All for One harps on useless Izuku Midoriya. Because even Deku, he's given it his all, but he's just not there yet to take down whatever All for One and Shigaraki are going to do next.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought up All for One, because I think that for the first time since Kamino was where All Might fought All for One, right?
Yep.
So ever since the Kamino incident, right, we haven't seen All for One present, like really present. Like we saw hints of it throughout this core, but it's not till this final episode that we actually see the big difference between All for One and everybody else.
I love the visualization of that too, right? This is something that the manga didn't really do, but like you zoom in on Shigaraki's eyes and they're not there, and it's like, oh, is that how we? That's how we represent that All for One is taking over, which is funny because I assume he lost his eyes, not that that's a defining characteristic of his. Right.
Well, you got to figure it's based on what we've seen. I mean, we don't know what happened between him and All Might. Yeah. So and the version of All for One that we know there's a version out there that has hair and has eyes, right? Because we've seen him like in the flashbacks. Now, and then there's the other version that looks horrible and like a monster and has no eyes. So it makes you think, is that because of the quirks that he's adopted, or is that just a result of the fight? But the idea that the current All for One is taking over Shigaraki, I think the eyes are there because if you look at it, remember when you see the kind of, because it's all about the smile, right? Yeah. With All for One, when you see the smile, is when after Spinner puts the hand on Shigaraki. So the angle, you don't have enough space to see the eyes. All you see is the fingers. But you see the smile, the malevolent smile that is All for One's smile. But
oh, sorry. I was just going to add one thing that I really loved about this whole thing. Again, you know, we've seen this in the manga already, but I love how they have the voices layered on top of each other.
Yes.
I didn't expect that, and I'm like, oh, that's genius. That's genius.
Yes. It's perfect because it talks about the fusion.
Yeah.
Which is the one thing that I kind of want to know what all you guys there that are anime onlys. How do you like the idea that Plus Ultra Shigi, which we met in this core, now is becoming something else, and it's maybe a hybrid of these two forces? How do you like that? Were you frightened? Because it scared the hell out of me. I mean, it scares anybody that reads it. But I think it's more apparent now. Like every time you go into the manga, Shigaraki always has his own text, right? He always had his own text, and so the idea that now the way the anime is bringing that to life is because now with the fusion with All for One, he has the 2-layer voices, which is super interesting. I wonder if it's gonna blend into one new voice once it actually all comes together, but I guess we'll know at some point. Now
we will know in a matter of weeks, I would say.
Well, probably. Depends on what happens later, which we'll talk later when we talk about the spoilers. Now, the one thing that I loved about the whole presentation of the All for One hybrid, because at this point, I wouldn't say it's an entire hybrid because this is the moment that All for One literally takes over, right? Interestingly enough, he literally heals for the most part physically. So he turns on regen, but he's not at full strength, of course, because the body's not complete. And the fact that he was able to push away everybody in seconds, it's like not even All for Shigi when he woke up could do that. So it literally kind of, I love the idea of power scaling and how it's literally telling everybody, yeah, if you thought Plus Ultra Shigi was a problem, the only reason we never saw All for One as a problem, kind of, is because All Might was there. Guys, All Might's not here. Here's All for One.
Think about it. Yeah, when they first introduced All for One, it's in season 3. We first like properly meet him, and then All Might beats him. So
right.
yeah, we never had enough time to really even fear him as a threat.
Right.
He's always just been in the background, in the shadows, and this arc I feel like really cements the terror he is. Like you said, All Might's not walking through that door anytime soon, saying "I am here." This is all we got.
Yeah, and then to top it off with the idea that the same villain that All Might defeated and said, "It is your turn," is the same villain that tells him, "You're useless." Like, that has to break anybody. You know what I mean? It's heartbreaking.
It reaffirms everything from season 1, right? And that's what I really love about the war arc, is that everything from the very first arc of My Hero Academia gets paid off. Shigaraki, right? That's the first time he's introduced, and he attacks the USJ, and he loses, but he comes back stronger. Deku, throughout season 1, is referred to by Bakugo as Deku, which translates to useless and worthless. And so, to see Deku and Endeavor be powerful enough to pull an All Might, right? Shigaraki doesn't have shock absorption, not shock nullification, like All Might versus the Nomu. So just beat him hard enough to where he has to back up and initiate regen and like regroup. It's a lot of themes and parallels to season 1. So when he calls him useless, it's just like, yeah, you just kind of flash back a little bit to when Deku's like, no, Deku's the name of a hero, and that's why he gets up Froppy style, no arms, no legs, trying to give it all he's got, but he ultimately still fails.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to recap what happened with All for One, as soon as he takes over, and after the spitting match with Spinner, right? What does he do in less than a minute? He calls all the Nomu to him so he can run away. He's able to push out, who is it, Bakugo and Shoto.
It was
Alita and Shoto? Lita and Shoto?
Yep.
Yeah, so he pushes those two. He knocks out Lemillion with one hit.
These are all anime original scenes, by the way.
Which, thank you, because I think more than anything, I would even say I'm gonna go on a limb here. This could have been the end of the season, and I'd be okay with that.
That's with My Hero Academia, especially coming off of Bleach, Chainsaw Man, Spy Family, everything we've been covering this season, right? It really highlights kind of the flaws. Like My Hero Academia having 2 cores a season is great. I love it, but some of those episodes, some of those moments were like, I wish the animation was a little bit better here. I wish this was handled a little bit better there. It kind of makes me wish that, yeah, this should have been the season finale, and then we just do season 7 in like 10 months where we follow this up.
Yeah. Like, this could have been the end, but it's not. I mean, and there's no problem. And then it makes you also think because you got to think about this also. They're very different shows, and they have very different audiences, even though everybody watches My Hero and everybody watches Chainsaw anyway. But it kind of also makes you think the intention behind it. I mean, this is supposed to be your teenage shonen jump. This is our generation's Naruto.
Yep.
More or less, right? So there is this desire of back to back. This the necessity or desire of syndication, serialization, and stuff like that. But then when you see Chainsaw Man, that's more of a premiere product that anybody will just wait for it as long as is that quality. Does that make sense?
It's essentially like a Blade Runner, like a Denis Villeneuve sci-fi movie compared to a Star Wars sci-fi movie. Where it's like.
Well, I think I would say this: Chainsaw Man is The Boys, and My Hero is Marvel.
That's all I'm saying is that they both can serve the same audience, and there probably is a lot of crossover, but one is more deliberate, one is more mature.
Yes.
At times, and the other one is a bit more for all ages, because like at the end of the day, you're right, this is essentially the 2010s generation's Naruto.
Right.
So you also don't want them to grow out of the show and like become
correct
and lose
correct
and not come back for next season.
So yes, so we have to keep putting these out there. So from that perspective, they are doing. I mean, the animation has evolved very nicely, but probably not as drastic as we would expect or hope. Probably because we've been seeing so many consecutive seasons that the animation hasn't really advanced that much. Because when you think about it, it took almost 10 or more years for the 1,000-Year Blood War to come out, and when you see the animation for that and the animation for the last arc that Bleach had, buddy, it's like huge. But then again, when you're doing something consistent, sometimes, and also I kind of wonder, like, when you see things consistently in terms of animation, right? If the product, if it's good, do you want to tweak it drastically? Because even then, when you watch the My Hero movies, the animation is better, but I'm not going to say it's superior. You know what I mean? To what we see in the anime. It's, you know what I mean? Like, it's better because it's given the extra budget and stuff like that, but it's not like watching, for example, the My Hero movies, in my opinion, this is a very personal opinion, the My Hero movies are great, but they don't really surpass the animation of something like Weathering with You or something like that, or like even Mugen Train. Does that make sense?
Right, and I guess that's where I like, not to harp on this too much. I guess that's where I'm coming from with Mugen Train and Demon Slayer look amazing. My Hero looks good. And that's the difference, where it's like, I'm not saying that I want them to emulate that specific style, but even you saying that the movies do look better, I would still rather them be consistent with the My Hero Academia movies. And if that means we cut the cores individually and have this core be the finale and then season 7 would be the next core, that's what I'm saying is I'm good with. I'm not saying drastically change the style or the animation or all that stuff. I'm just saying, if the movies are the better product, let's aim for the next season of MHA to
look like that. Yeah. Especially if we're not doing a movie this year.
Yeah, that's why, we'll talk about this in the manga spoiler section. But there are some moments where I'm like, I hope that's where the budget is going.
Like if they're going to do something like movie related or whatever. Yeah.
There's some fights coming that I think would need to look spectacular, and if that's where the time and effort's going, since there's no movie announced, that would be pretty dope.
Yeah, but yeah, it's all super interesting. It's like the kind of moment where you, as a fan, like you like, can I be like I want to be like an audit. I don't want to like say what I think, but can I just sit in one of these Bones meetings? Right. I mean, I just want to listen. I want to know
what they did with Mob Psycho. Like, that's all I'm saying. We know they got the ability. It's just that My Hero doesn't get the same amount of time and double the output as some of these other shows.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, and also to think the idea like not, and again, I don't think we're stretching anything too much, but like to think it took Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 almost 2.5 years after the first one, and the first one was animation wise was just phenomenal, and Zero was a tad better than that, so I'm not surprised that season 2 is just going to look crazy as well. But then again, there's a studio that has shown that taking more than enough time to do something, like not letting it go till it's right, because I don't think anybody has any issues with whatever Mop has done lately. And they actually have taken their time. Final season. Attack on Titan. So, I don't know. I think it's an argument that's worth having. But, of course, we're not saying that My Hero's trash. That's not what we're saying. But,
not at all.
But it is one of those things that especially... I think it's... The animation is getting to that point where you kind of feel that it's dragging its feet, like... because it still feels like the original season 1, season 2 type animation.
That's what I mean by, I'm not saying change like even the animation style, because Horikoshi's art is great.
Yes,
I'm just saying like the nuances of like cinematography. One of my favorite shots in this specific episode is when Deku's like losing consciousness and he sees like the clouds, right? He sees that this weird blue sky during all this chaos, and it's shot, quote unquote, shot beautifully.
Right.
Something I was telling Isaac and Jamie, I believe it was the last episode we did, that My Hero has a cinematography issue because every scene looks the same. Even My Villain Academia, if you read the manga, that takes place at night. It's a lot moodier. It's a lot darker. And the anime doesn't do that. It's still the same blue sky. There's never any rain. There's never any of these.
Interesting.
And so that's what I mean when I'm saying I wish they spent more time, not necessarily trying to change character designs or even make these fights significantly better, but it's just like moments like that, nuances like that I feel like the anime kind of misses sometimes. Especially going into the next arc, because I'm going to be real, this is not a big spoiler, but the majority of that does take place at night. And so I really hope Bones acknowledges that and not make it daytime again. Because think about every single arc. Only one arc in the anime has actually taken place at night, and that was the Stain arc.
Yes, it was. And it was phenomenal.
The Forest arc, but that's my point, right? Like,
yeah,
I have no problem with how season 2 of My Hero Academia looked. And if this season looked like that, great. It's a weird disconnect because we have all these dark elements going on, but it's clear skies, daytime, beautiful, especially during My Villain Academia more than anything.
Yeah. Interesting. I never thought about My Hero having a set design problem, but it makes sense because what this is not just something for people to know. Like, people that have been following us forever know that me and Isaac were able to do a Core 1 review of Jujutsu Kaisen, and for the longest time we haven't done Core 2, and it's because I am the problem. Because I was a little disheartened because of how derivative the first core of Jujutsu Kaisen felt in comparison to other shonen animes that came before it. But I bit the bullet and I've seen Core 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen. And I'm so glad that I did, because after that first core, the second core, Jujutsu Kaisen really just embraces its own identity. Because it really doesn't in the previous one, but in this one it does. And it was so much of an impact and so great that I've been reading the manga, and I'm pretty much caught up with the manga now.
That's crazy. You know, it's funny because Jujutsu Kaisen and My Hero, I have the reverse problem for both of them. My Hero, I love the story. Jujutsu Kaisen, I love the animation. Okay, if we could just fuse the two, I'd be good.
So, and the funny thing is, the one thing that MAPPA does very well is that they know how to build environments. They know how to use the environment as a storytelling tool. So I can kind of see what you're saying, because you really don't ever get the sense of environment to tell the My Hero story. Everything you use in My Hero is the quirks, is the battles, is the main shonen aspects of it. Which when we take in consideration everything that's coming very soon to the My Hero universe, it's all ambiance. It's all environment. It's all about the mood of a people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can only really capture that if you are able to build the setting properly. You know what I mean? So I think that's a good eye, Mike. It's a very good eye. Horikoshi, I'm gonna write you an email. No.
Well, here.
You gotta Horikoshi, listen to my boy.
We're just gonna. This is what the anime looks like for Deku versus Shigaraki, right? This is good. I have no problems with this, really at all. But take a look at what the manga looks like. I'm gonna pull that up. It's gonna be a colored version just for comparison's sake, because manga's in black and white for those who don't read. You know, it's a little more moody, right? It's not the lights on Deku's face aren't as bright. It's more menacing, even though it's the same exact shot. And again, nothing is wrong with the anime shot. It's just not as much atmosphere is ever really given attention in My Hero's anime adaptation. That's all.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. So as we go into the more Core 1 finale aspect of it all, right? The heroes are literally picking up the pieces, because literally the villains themselves have delivered a big blow, not just to the heroes, but to hero society and society as a whole. Many have died. We know there's a monster named Shigaraki around now, because now everybody pretty much knows him, and everybody knows the Liberation Front. Everybody knows Dabi, and the hope and the trust on heroes is broken down because the past of the number one hero has come to light in the most horrible way possible. By the way, I find it hilarious that part of the reveal was, and here's a paternity test: Maury Povich, is he the father? That's kind of hilarious.
That's always going to be really funny to me. I just want to acknowledge, because a lot of people didn't like the last season of My Hero Academia, and I totally
like season 5.
Season 5, yeah.
Yeah.
Mainly because we had that extremely long Class A versus Class B arc. Then we just spin off into My Villain Academia. It was kind of disjointed, but seeing what happens in this season, it kind of makes a lot more sense, because in this 12 episodes, we're introduced to Mirako, the number 5 hero. Mirako is now mortally wounded and dying. Eraserhead loses an eye. He cuts off his leg. Midnight is dead, maybe? We're not entirely sure yet. Fat Gum and Sun Eater are knocked out. The UA students had to fight for their life to just escape Gigantomachia. And they tried to slow him down, but he destroys the entire city. Uraraka and Frappy have to fight Toga, and they kind of barely escape that encounter. Luckily, Toga just kind of gives up and walks away. Dabi single-handedly crushes Hero Society by revealing his true nature. All for One takes over Shigaraki's body. And we have no idea what's going on with Gran Torino and Bakugo.
But of course, we're reminded of how hard he was hit, though.
Yes.
Because we do see that scene of Shigaraki just, oh my god, pummeling his ass. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so funny because my sister watches the show, and from episode 1, that she watched the end credits song, and then at the end, this yellow thing flies past.
Yes.
It's just like, so Gran Torino dies, doesn't he? I'm like, we'll find out. Hopefully not. We'll see. But this is a packed arc when you really think about it. So much has happened in these 12 episodes.
Yeah.
Horikoshi turned it up to 1,000.
Yeah.
When he was writing this arc, it's insane. So much happened.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I go back to the whole Infinity War parallel, because it does give you that sense of it's the end of an era, but not in a good way, which I think was the big payoff of Infinity War. This is why a lot of people still prefer Infinity War to Endgame, even though both of them, whether you like to admit it or not, they're quasi-perfect movies for the genre and for the universe, right? Because they're not perfect, but you know what I mean? Like, they're perfect for the Marvel. They're like top tier Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's really hard to consider Avengers movies to be that because of how complex it is. But one of the reasons people love Infinity War is because when the snap occurs, spoilers for a movie that's almost 6 years old, and if you haven't seen it, you don't believe in pop culture.
It's like the 6th highest grossing movie of all time. You've seen it, we know.
Exactly, and you've seen all the jokes, so it doesn't matter. You've seen a meme at least. Thanos does not demand my silence anymore. So when the snap occurs, like, everybody feels it, And the idea that the villain sits down and looks at the horizon, and you literally remember the conversation he has with I think it's with Gamora, and he says that at the end, I'll just sit down on this planet and just chill. And the final shot of that movie is Thanos chilling.
Watch the sunrise over a grateful universe.
Yep, and the last thing that you see is no cutscenes. No, the Avengers will return. None of that. It's just dread. And that's literally what happens at the end of this episode. And even in the preview, it's all recapitulating the same feeling.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's just picking up the name of the episode coming up is Hellish Hell. It's like it's not even like no, it's hell. It's horrible. It's the worst thing.
You know, that's the thing. Like, the show is called My Hero Academia. Moving forward, let's just refer to it as My Hero, because there's no way these kids go back to school after this. Half their teachers are probably dead anyway.
Wow, great enthusiasm, Mike.
No, I'm just saying, like, going into next episode, what happens? We scoop them up, take them to the hospital, and then what?
It's funny that you say that, because it happens with all shonen. Like, you know that a shonen, it's heading towards final season in terms of type of place in the as story whenever school's out. like it's same thing happened to Naruto. It got to a point where, okay guys, we can't just bother you guys and go into school and training. No, this is the moment. The next 100 episodes is just fighting this guy.
The great ninja war. Here we go.
Yeah.
Does that make Shigaraki Madara, or does that make him Obito?
I mean, I think we got our answer at the end here.
Obito.
We know who's Madara and we know who's Obito. There's no question about it.
I swear if Kaguya shows up in this manga coming up soon, I'm gonna flip out.
Could you imagine that in some weird way Toga got a hold of Kaguya blood and she just does it to fake out? Like
that'd be hilarious. Yes, it would. So, what were your thoughts on like Deku's pursuing Shigaraki? And then we have this moment where he's like, "I'll never forgive you," and then
go.
No, but then like he says, "But in that moment, you looked like you needed saving," and then the song kicks in. And it's
bro,
like,
yes. So I love how, because the reality is this: season 6, Cour 1. What it did, I think it literally closed down an era of My Hero. Like, it really found a way to say everything that all the story that we've presented up to this point was to get us to this point. Everything beyond there is something else. That's literally how it feels. And the idea that it returns to its original theme and idea, which is that our job is to save whoever needs saving.
Tenya even says that in the episode, right? A hero is someone who saves people, and he's going to save Bakugo and Midori.
Right. So the fact that we go back to that idea, that we go back to that understanding, that we go back to that goal, right? It's powerful because there's a lot of people. It's the whole Sasuke thing, right? Like, most of the people that really need saving are people that don't know they want to be saved, which is the whole thing around Sasuke, right? Like, Sasuke in this is struggle because he thinks that what he's doing is the right thing, but it's because he's allowing himself to be consumed by all this anger, all this grief, and this hatred towards Konoha when he learns everything about Itachi, right? That he wants to make a world that's better, no matter the cost. But at the end of the day, he also didn't want to be alone anymore. Because that's the whole point, right? The whole point with Sasuke also is, again, hey, it is the Naruto plug, right? The second we have
to do an episode on Naruto just so we can refer to that one day, because we don't have one.
we should. The big three is asking for it. We already did one of the big three. We're talking Bleach, so now we gotta branch out, right? So the whole thing with Sasuke is that apart from all the stuff that created his head, is that he doesn't want to be alone anymore. And he wants people to pay. He wants people that caused him to be alone to pay the price. And then when he finds out and actually realized that he was never alone and he was actually pushing people away, that's what allows Naruto to pull him back in. Which is why, to me, some of the most interesting scenes with Sasuke are in Boruto, because he literally he's a completely different person, transformed by friendship in the best way possible. You know what I mean? I love. I don't know if you ever saw it, but I love the whole scene where Boruto is low key telling him the story of this ninja that he once knew, and that he was saved by his best friend. But of course, nobody knows except us that he's talking about how Naruto saved him.
Yep.
You know, so it all goes back to that, and I love the parallel there with with
Deku and Shigaraki.
Deku and Tendo. It's Tendo, right? Tenko specifically, because the words that still ring true, and it was actually reminded to us in this core is that at that moment where he was walking around right after he accidentally murders his family, he was looking for someone to save him, and everybody would just turn him away.
That's why I think that scene, it's a great way to end this core, especially when you remember the ending song, right? And we see Deku looking at a young Tenko, which is very reminiscent to the Horikoshi manga panel. This is in the ED every single week.
Yeah.
And it's just the two boys. You look like you needed saving. This is the exact same look, position, clothing, pose that Deku has when he goes to get Bakugo out of the water, when he falls off that bridge when they were younger. And it's just like, yeah, that's Izuku's mentality. He's here to save even you, Tomura Shigaraki, the one who destroyed everything. I just think the song was kind of out of place. That's just, I get why they wanted to use it. It's the Might Plus You song. That's what happened when he saved Eri. They used that in the movie. It didn't fit tonally, I feel like, with this specific scene. But I understand why they went there, and it's still a beautiful song. It still hits hard,
especially when it's the slow mo.
Yeah, I did a whole video on this on my channel, shameless plug, about how My Hero Academia uses music, and
yes, he did.
Yeah, they did the thing again, just kind of reaffirming that entire video.
Yes, the thing has been done. Okay, so anything else on Core 1?
Core 1 was balls to the wall insanity. For the anime onlys, it only gets crazier from here. So, like Brandon said, the My Hero Academia we've come to know and love, or hate, depending on who you are, it's probably not coming back. And it's evolving into something entirely different. That works for some people, doesn't work for others. I feel like this, like you said, we're going into the end game, right? And end game isn't as beloved as Infinity War, which I think is very accurate of what happens with My Hero Academia in the next arc. But I'm going to be real, the next arc has some of my favorite moments, my favorite Deku moments of the entire series. So I can't wait.
I think the whole thing about the next coming arc, which I think is a good moment to switch gears, right? Guys, we've talked about Core 1. We've done our finale. If you guys love what we do here, make sure you click on the bell icon, like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any coverage. By the time this video comes out, we're going to be getting ready to start our Core 2 coverage. As you guys know, the Amateur Otaku live stream is moving to Thursday nights. Every Thursday between 7 and 7:30. And we're going to be covering My Hero Academia Core 2 and Nier Automata. So we have a lot of other stuff that we're doing, so stay tuned for that. And if you don't want to miss any episode of our core coverage of My Hero, make sure you click on the like button, subscribe. If you want to listen to us on the go, go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever podcasts are found. You will find our episodes on My Hero there as well. Now, we are going to start talking about My Hero Manga Spoilers to talk about our theories for Core 2 and spoilers of Core 2. So if you have not read the manga, this is where we bid you adieu and goodbye. Because we are going to spoil and talk our hearts out about the manga. We're not going to go way far onward to the manga. Like, we're not going to talk about what's going on right now. But we are going to talk about and speculate of where Core 2 is going to cover. So we might spoil stuff that might not be in Core 2, just to try and get a sense of what our theories could be or can be. So if you haven't read the manga, this is the moment to leave. And we appreciate you for joining us on this episode and checking out our review. So just in case, Mike, where can people find you?
You guys can find me at Novice Cinephile, where it's the year of the rabbit, and we still stand Medico.
Yes, and you can find me at the Scarlet Fan 52 on Twitter, and you can find the pod at the Amateur Otaku Pod. Stay awesome, go beyond, plus ultra, and See ya. And for those that are staying, let's talk some MHA manga spoilers. We are talking Core 2 theories, which is going to be, what, another 12 episodes, Mike?
Yep, should be another 12, maybe 13. We might end 26. Sometimes they do that, but 12 for sure.
So we're talking manga spoilers, see where Core 2 could go, what it could focus on, and I don't know. What are your thoughts? So definitely we do have the first 2 or 3 episodes, right, are definitely going to be focusing on the aftermath. If I remember the manga correctly, we don't really get a sense of where the world is beyond this fight till like probably 6 or 7 chapters after this, right? Because I know that what's coming is the aftermath on Hero Society.
Yeah.
Then we have the Tartarus prison breakout, right?
Yep.
And then we have, drum roll please, the introduction of Dark Deku.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot, but also I want to keep in mind that MHA has been adapting 2 to 3 chapters per episode.
Yeah.
So I feel like they might be able to do, they might be able to get just about the entirety of the Dark Deku arc, completed. My only question, after seeing this episode, is, are we gonna get some more like anime only episodes? Not filler, because this was not a filler episode whatsoever. You cannot skip this. But the episode where we're covering now, Final Performance, I do wonder if we're gonna get more episodes like that where it's mixed manga and anime,
like embellishments,
right? Because if they do that they can start to stretch this out a little bit. Because since we're talking freely with manga spoilers, there's a lot of stuff with the UA students that we don't cover that I think might be kind of cool to touch on if they did want to start embellishing the story a little bit.
Like getting a more feel of the actual student side of it. But see, here's my concern with that. Which, by the way, it makes 100% sense what you're saying. Like that, like if they were going to expand anything, that might be the place to expand.
Yeah.
But if they do that, depending on how they do it, it does diminish the return that we get when they go after Deku. Because the whole what actually makes that rescue of Deku meaningful is that we haven't seen the UA students for almost 12 chapters as Dark Deku is operating. So getting too much of the students before that moment, like for example, I didn't mention this before, but one of the things that I hated, I had a big problem with, is that on the episode Dobby's Dance, we get a glimpse of Best Jeanist. And
I hated that so much because that completely undercut the reveal. But
yes.
They did that with Lemillion too, where they added a scene where he's like saving Vernon, and then he shows up. It's like, why are you teasing that? We're already watching the episode. We're here. Just let it happen.
Exactly, which it makes no sense whatsoever why they would do that. Like that's the kind of thing, like it's supposed, like in the manga, it's a surprise, it's a reveal, it's meant to be shocking to everybody involved. But it's like, no, you're supposed to know this before the characters. No, surprise me, damn it. So that was like one of those moments where I was like, what are you doing? We're not supposed to see him till he's in action. It makes no sense. So that's like, I don't want that to happen with the moment where the UA Class 1A goes to try and save Deku from himself. And by no means, those that have read the manga know that we're not saying that Deku goes evil. That's not what we mean by Dark Deku. We just know that he literally embraces the Batman inspirations of
right.
that Horikoshi kind of wanted to imbue to the character.
He goes from Superman to Batman, essentially, which is...
Yeah. Actually from Spider-Man to Batman, because we've never talked about Danger Sense.
Yeah, because this episode does reveal Danger Sense. That's another thing. He unlocks 2 quirks in this arc, which is wild. But, I didn't want to touch too much on Danger Sense for the anime only, simply because that's to be revealed a little bit later.
No, but he talks about what it is in the
I know.
anime.
I just didn't want to spoil what all that entails because we don't get the full explanation in this episode.
Fair. All right, because we start seeing the conversation later.
Right.
Yes, I got you.
But yeah, when I was talking about the UA students and how I want them to get more scenes. I mean, like Deku leaves them all notes and leaves and explains everything. And I would really like to see what their reactions to that are, because the only one we ever see is Uraraka in the manga.
Gotcha.
Uraraka,
But don't we see their reactions explained when they go to rescue him?
Not in depth. That's
okay.
what I mean. I'd like
you want an expansion of it. That's what you want.
Right. I want a scene where they're actually talking about, yeah, that makes sense. That's why he and All Might do X, Y, Z. And then you can have the 4 or 5 episodes where they're not there, and then we have Bakugo saying, "I found him, guys," and then we commence as usual. That's all. Just like moments like that, because
okay. No, that makes sense, and they can probably sneak that into the whole. The first couple of episodes, right? Like, because, correct me if I'm wrong, I know we have, the way the events go is Aftermath, Tartarus, Deku against Muscular. You get a little bit of other heroes trying to do a difference, and then Deku saves them. You have Deku against Lady Nagant.
Yeah.
And then then Class 1A rescues Deku,
and then Star and Stripe. Yeah.
So the way you kind of figure is, what makes logical sense would be for the Cour to end with UA picking up Deku, or would you close it out? Because if you stretch it out in a certain way, right? Depending on how you stretch it out, if you stretch it out in a certain way, you could end it with the Muscular fight.
I don't think you could.
I mean,
because you do have to do a lot of stretching, because the Tartarus outbreak is really, that might be an episode.
True. True.
Yeah, that would be one full episode. The Aftermath might be a full episode. And remember, Deku, spoilers, but again, if you guys are still here, I assume you've read this. Deku's fight with Muscular takes like 30 seconds. So.
Right, you're right, and that's kind of the point of the whole. Like, the big real fight where we actually see how much he's grown is the fight against Lady Nagant.
But even like Lady Nagant, one thing that we've learned from this previous arc, the one that we're closing here in this episode, is that once you start animating fights, they go a lot faster than they did when you were reading them.
True.
Like that Mirako fight with all those no moves was like a month and a half's worth of chapters. The anime was 1 episode, 1.5 episodes max. So I honestly feel like this season can still end with Star and Stripe versus All for Shitty.
Well, the thing is this. Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
What happens first, Dark Deku or Stars and Stripes?
Dark Deku happens first, because Star and Stripe is fighting Shigaraki while Deku's back at UA.
See, I have lost track of that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, then I would feel better if Season 7 starts with Stars and Stripes.
The only reason I say that is because, remember how Season 4 ended with Endeavor versus the high-end number?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That had nothing to do with the contents of that season. It was the music festival arc that they were doing with Gentle Criminal. And the last 2 episodes ended with Endeavor versus that number. So I feel like Star and Stripe isn't necessarily a whole arc. That'll be maybe 2 episodes, and they might do the same thing where that ends this arc. We end with Shigaraki losing those abilities, those quirks, and then we start the end game, right? The heroes regrouping in the next season.
Well, I wonder. But tonally, I kind of feel. I don't know why, but tonally, I kind of feel in terms of, like, if we're trying to get a win, at least, right? If we don't want to end in the sour note that Course, because I don't know if we kind of want, as fans, I don't know if we want to end in 2 downers. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
that's why the Star and Stripe, it technically, like, it's a significant loss, but it is kind of a win at the same time, because she does, like, debuff the villain in a sense.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But at the same time, I see more of a significant win helping because as soon as so when Deku comes back and the Stars and Stripes things happen, right?
Yep.
Does the big Uraraka speech occur as soon as he comes back or after Stars and Stripes?
That occurs. I think that's. I think technically they might be happening simultaneously. I don't remember.
Because you could end with that. Because it's not just the idea. Because remember, the whole thing about Deku, it's not just the fact that Class 1A brings him back. It's the fact that everyone else wants him out.
Yeah.
So like you could. It would, to me, thematically, it would be more of a higher note to finish there, and then just reintroduce how terrible Shigaraki is now that he's close to perfection, because he's able to take an All Might type level hero down. Mm-hmm. Because that's the whole thing with Stars and Stripes, right? Like, there's another All Might level hero that was inspired by All Might that is rivaling All Might to a degree, to some extent, right? And Shigaraki's able to take her down by himself. Even though he does lose, he still takes her down by himself. So I kind of like, I don't know.
So I'm flipping through the manga right now, and this last episode just ended on 294, I think we said.
Okay.
And Deku comes back to UA at 394. Excuse me, 294, and then he comes back in 227, and then Star and Stripe.
327. 327.
Yep.
Okay.
So I feel like, yeah, that might be a decent spot to end it. If they have, again, it depends on if they're padding things out too, because in manga take a lot longer than they do in the anime. Yeah. Those will be 5 minutes. Thankfully, we're not doing the Kakashi versus Zabuza fight where we're talking every few minutes.
We're getting like 5 backstories with every punch. Yeah.
Yeah. Water style. Dragon Jutsu. He's a copy ninja. Copies. Says the same. We saw him do it. We know he's copying it. We don't need to harp on that.
Anyway. No. I find it interesting that every 5 seconds, all we see is Kakashi doing fast overhead. Oh, and by the way, everybody's still using the same meme though, where Kakashi's doing like 1,000,000 signs a minute, and Sabuza and him are just.
I mean, it's funny. I love it. I love that fight. But like, I'm glad we've evolved past the point where we take 10 episodes for that fight to happen.
Yes.
We can get down to 1 or 2.
Yes.
But yeah, like I feel like I get what you're saying, ending with him coming back, and I guess that is also another good parallel of All Might, right? Saying you can become a hero and how impactful that was.
Right.
Uraraka giving a similar speech, I think, would be a really nice way to end it.
Yes.
But what if they go crazy and they do end with Double Terror this season and having the U.S. step? Because I think that's a question a lot of people are starting to have too. Where is the rest of the world seeing this happen?
Right.
And it might be good to answer that question sooner rather than later.
Yeah, because the only time that we've seen somewhere besides Japan is in Two Heroes, like
World Heroes Mission.
Right. So it's one of those things like we've never seen it in the anime. We haven't really seen it.
Right.
So yeah. That's all I'm thinking. That's all I'm thinking really, because I just don't foresee. I mean, they can do it, but I don't foresee them ending in a sour note. And also in season 7, there's a lot that happens, because in that first core of season 7, we're moving past what core 2 is going to be. So spoilers to anybody that hasn't read the manga. So
spoilers for current manga spoilers, because that would be next season.
Yeah. So 3, 2, 1, spoilers. That first core. Here's the reason why I think the Stars and Stripes things makes some sense, because that first core can be the Stars and Stripes thing, and then we got to handle the whole mole situation.
Yeah, that's immediately after the Star and Stripe fight.
Right. So we got to handle that, and that would make sense, because if you handle that, then by core 2 of season 7, then we can start rolling into Endgame. So that I don't know why, but or in terms of organization, that would just makes the most sense, pacing wise, because we do want to spend some time with Dark Deku. We do want to spend some time with Deku being troubled, but also I'm gonna throw this back at you. You mentioned about spending more time with the kids at UA, right?
Yeah. Or even the big three. Like, what are they up to? Like, if you want to do a filler episode, I wouldn't even be opposed to it, honestly.
Right. So, but I kind of want the opposite. I want more time with the citizens of Japan. I want the status of how the world is to be its own. I want to feel it be its own character. Like, I want to see more about the heteromorphs. I want to see more about, like, all those little nuggets that you only get
that we've been complaining about.
Yes, all those things that we see little glimpses of. I want to see that pronounced here. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't mind dealing with the whole heteromorphs thing with that one dolphin lady that All Might saves and Deku saves.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of want to spend time finding out how Deku and All Might's relationship has kind of broken down because of how Deku's feeling. I kind of want to spend more time to see how other heroes are struggling to actually save people because nobody cares about them anymore. So I want more of that, and then Deku operating on the sidelines, and then moving into that. You know what I mean?
Well, this goes back into what we've been saying during the manga coverage for a while, is that Horikoshi, you can feel at a certain point he decided, I'm going to rush to the end. Because he's voiced like he's been getting sick and he's been getting tired. And like, you can tell he kind of just wants the series to get to the finish line. Luckily, over the last few months, he's kind of changed his tune a little bit, and he has been diving into those aspects a bit more, which I appreciate. But this is the heart of that issue of pacing and how poorly paced some of these arcs were. Not that the content was bad, like Dark Deku, I love, but that's only for 6-7 chapters, you know. And so,
right.
Yeah, if they can flesh out some of those ideas, some of those themes a bit more, I'm all for it. Especially for Izuku specifically, because this is his show, and I'm going to be real. When was the last time he's had an arc dedicated to him?
Oh, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. So if we can somehow make that Dark Deku period about him, All Might, and Stain, I'm cool. If you want to flesh that out a bit more.
Oh, and also, how many people are excited that we're going to see Stain one more time and then never see him again later?
You know, I think it's for the best, honestly, because Stain, like, by all accounts, Stain isn't the most powerful character, so like he serves his purpose, and then we move on from that. I'm not entirely upset. It's kind of funny because he's been this looming presence, just as big, if not bigger, than All for One over the entire series. Because all the League of Villains, except for Shigaraki, are disciples of Stain.
Right.
So it's kind of funny how he shows up, never interacts with them, and then leaves.
Yeah.
Like, I'd really like to see a conversation between Stain and Dabi, or Stain and Spinner, but we just don't get that. At least not yet. Not yet.
I mean, I just like the idea that he's out there.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the idea that he's out there. So
he had some great stuff in Vigilantes, if we ever get that.
Really?
Adaptation, yeah.
Really interesting. See, now I have to. Damn it! Can you stop telling me the things that I haven't read?
I can't fault you. There's like 1,001 things that you and Isaac tell me that I need to read and watch, and I just can't. But yeah. I think this arc is gonna. I think this second core is gonna be great. There's a lot they can do. There's a lot of directions they can go. They can add, they can embellish, or they can just adapt it straightforward, and it will still be fine. So that's the benefit of post-war, right? They can really go in any direction. Because even if they slow things down, I don't think that's going to hurt the pacing too much, because it's already balls to the wall insane. So if they wanted to take time a bit,
well, it needs to be. And it's funny because no matter how you feel about Endgame, that's the one thing that movie did right. Like, literally the first 45 minutes of that film is, after 5 years, the heroes are just picking up the pieces.
Yeah.
And for me, that's actually part of the entertaining thing of it, because they all thought they had no reason to keep fighting, and then they find out, wait a minute, there is a reason. Let's try and fight again.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Always Cap, right? Now, I was gonna say one last thing. So, what was I gonna say? I forgot it. I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, and it's interesting that you mentioned about expanding things too, because when you look into everything else that's coming up, right? This is the core to expand things, because it really doesn't stop.
Yeah.
After the whole Dark Deku thing, it really just goes and fast forward, and it really doesn't stop. So if you wanted to take time to give everyone a breather, but also give them premium content, this is the time within the manga and the story to do it, because you're really not going to have a break after.
Yeah, and you know, that's why I'm not saying I hate where the manga is right now, but it's like this really is just like the end of MHA as we know it. And so if we can allow us to savor it, that's one thing I didn't like about how it was paced in the manga. It's like allow us to acknowledge that things are changing, that the world has changed, and we can embrace that fully. But when it happens, you know, at a million miles per hour, it doesn't have the impact I think you want. Like Deku leaving UA and telling the students that he has a power called One for All, and it's from All Might, and that's why All for One is after him. That is a big moment, and that's what I mean by I'd like to see what the reaction to that is, because that is a ground-shaking moment in the series that we just don't acknowledge at all.
Or at least we try to, but everything's moving so fast that you really never really acknowledge it.
Yeah, it's like they know now, and like nobody ever asked him, like even in an offhand comment. Like it'd be funny if we just even had a second of Mineta saying, "Oh, so you have Shigaraki's grandmother inside of you? That's crazy." You don't get anything like that, you know?
Why is it that every time everybody talks about Mineta, we're finding reasons to make him go to jail?
Yeah, well, because Mineta finds reasons to make himself go to jail.
It's funny. Naruto had the pervy sage. Now we have Mineta, the pervy hero.
I don't know which one's worse, honestly. I feel like it's Mineta, but also Naruto's sexy jutsu turned on Pervy Sage for some weird reason, and the kid was 11, and that's all kinds of wrong.
Okay, you need to stop. This is not the expansion that we need that right now.
I'm just pointing out that's what makes me so uncomfortable with Jiraiya in Naruto Part 1.
It's like the Last of Us thing we just saw. Like that's not the lore expansion that we needed right now. Inside joke. Sorry, guys.
Speaking of The Last of Us, we're going to be talking about that live on the chatter after. You guys want to check that out?
If you guys are fan of the anime and you guys fan of the game, if you guys are fan of the game and are going to be watching the show on HBO, make sure you log in, because we're going to be talking to The Last of Us. The great Super BritCon, Brett Miro, which is co-host of the Fanboy Podcast, will be joining us every Tuesday talking about The Last of Us on HBO. We're very excited to be covering it. It's going to be a blast, so if you guys want to join, make sure to join. I don't know, man. You got anything else?
That's it. I'm just hoping that this intro goes hard. You know what? I want you to go like full on metal for this intro, just to highlight how metal Dark Deku is.
See, that's the thing, though. I don't know if I want. For me, for some reason, I kind of want like a Bluebird kind of song. because it's the right mixture of sorrow and heroism at the same time. Does that make sense? It's a sad song in a way, but also it's hype, and that's kind of like the weird gray area that Deku's gonna be in, because he's not.
But the thing is, I feel like a lot of My Hero songs are kind of like that. At least their ending songs, maybe not their intro songs.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, because like this, the arc we're just finishing up. That's how I felt about that ending. It felt very reminiscent of that exact same tone. So
fair.
You know, I would just want something. I feel like I want something just drastically different from what we're used to. Because even like we didn't really acknowledge it. I think it's really funny how upbeat the intro has been for this previous arc.
Oh yeah.
In contrast to what the show is doing, and like some people hate it, but I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, the other one is, now that I think about it, there's an intro for Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood that's like, it's literally about raindrops or whatever, and it's like super dramatic. and it's towards the end of the show, and I think I want something like that.
Yeah, you want that. I'm thinking more signs from Naruto Shippuden. I actually brought that one up when we were talking our intros on the channel. But yeah, like I'm thinking more of that. Like, it doesn't have to be crazy heavy metal, but I want it to be intense. That's all.
Yeah. Or maybe the animation of it is just Dark Deku walking down a corridor. That's all we see. Like, that's it. Like emo Deku, he's just walking down a corridor.
Give him at least a hallway fight at the height of the song, just to be like, Daredevil now.
Damn. But yeah,
I'm excited to see Lady Nakan. That's all I have to say.
Yes, because thighs save. Oh wait, that's not it. Okay.
I mean, clearly I have a type. I'm now realizing this. Anyway.
I mean, your favorite heroes. Okay, so guys, this is amazing. Thank you for joining us on this episode of My Hero Academia. I hope you enjoyed our conversation of Season 6 Core 1 throughout and our finale conversation. We look forward to seeing you live every Thursday as we talk My Hero Academia Season 6 Core 2. I'm very excited to see if our predictions come through. Does it end with Dark Deku? Does it end with him returning to UA? Does it end with Elite Ganant? Or do they go full speed and finish with Stars and Stripes? We don't know, but we've spoken what we want. Do you prefer Stars and Stripes, or do you prefer him returning to UA?
Whatever is done well, whatever Bones thinks is the best for this season. If they decide to add things, then I think ending with him returning to UA is a good spot.
And then the preview being like Stars and Stripes standing in her suit, and you can see the American flag. Like that to me, I don't know, that would be amazing.
So you remember the intro for season 4? This is the overhaul arc, right? And like we have All Might standing there, and Deku is just like looking at him. He does this in the first intro too. You can do that where it's just like you see Star and all her glory, and it just says "to be continued." America joins the fray, or something like that.
Yeah,
that'd be kind of cool.
And then runs away with her tails behind her legs. So spoilers. No. But guys, thank you for joining us. If you want to keep listening to our coverage of My Hero Academia, manga, or anime, make sure you click on the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click on the bell for notifications. If you want to listen to us on the road, we're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever podcasts are found. You can find Mike at the Novice Cinephile and his own channel, Novice Cinephile, and The Shadow After, where we talk movies, games, books, whatever we decide to cover that's not anime, because this is where we do anime.
Like Vox Machina, that'd be a good one to check out.
Ooh. So check out our movie coverage at The Shadow After and come back to see us. And if you want to talk to us and recommend stuff that we should see or watch or cover, let us know at the Amateur Otaku Pod. I am Brandon Alvarado, Scarlet Fan, saying goodbye. We'll see you next time, guys. Have it awesome. Peace. Plus Ultra and Stripes.